found it very interesting this morning to hear about different perspectives from both members of government in recipient countries, as well as people who work at the financial institutions, and then civil society like myself, and the different ways in which we are looking at the issue, but at the same time coming up against very similar questions. I think one of the main contributions will be that people will get to interact with each other and help to figure out some of the answers to the questions that we have. And I particularly enjoyed it this morning when there were some examples given from countries where CSS has been developed and is evolving in a positive direction, and kind of the reasons behind that. Hopefully it'll provide lessons for others to do something similar. It's true. We noted in the report that because, of course, a country system is based on the entire suite of laws and institutions, it's quite different from the policies that a financial institution, which is just one institution that creates, a system. And so when you're comparing is a little bit of oranges to apples, but it doesn't mean that a comparison isn't possible. I think one of the important things is to look at what are the results that you're trying to get at within the financial institution's policies, for example, and then how do they compare to the results of the country's safeguard system. So rather than looking at, do they have exactly the same structure that the financial institution has, does the system of the country kind of reach the same results that the financial institution is hoping that they will. I don't think it's too high. I think many of the requirements are things that the government themselves have already promised they'll be doing. What's challenging is oftentimes implementation of the laws, and so yes, and sometimes it can be too much of an expectation to expect that a government is going to be able to implement all on its own the safeguard policies. So I don't think that means that you lower the policies, but instead you help the government cut to the level that needs to be to implement the policies. And civil society, I think, can play a huge role, mostly because they are kind of the public that can hold its own government to account in some ways, and also they can help provide solutions to problems that they know about, being part of the society that is subject to the problems that arise when projects go wrong. So they can be a resource, they can be an ally, and they can be essentially provide the background for why you want to be doing the safeguards in the first place. Well, I think it certainly is a knowledge sharing platform in that people are sharing their knowledge with each other, either from a panel or over lunch. I think ways in which it can improve. Well, we're only through the first morning, so maybe we'll be doing these things in the future, but definitely capturing the knowledge that is here and providing it in a way that can then be used after the workshop ends, I think is an important thing, both for the people that are here and haven't scribbled down notes vigorously, but also the people that aren't able to attend. And it's also, I think, appreciate the fact that more civil society, I think, are invited this time than last workshop. Seems like that adds hopefully I guess I'm part of that, add another dynamic and element to the conversation. Well, I would be surprised if we answered all the questions that are there over the next 2 days, because they're quite difficult. So I'm sure that there will still be questions around, how do you, for example, make sure that environmental and social considerations are central to development investments. I think this is something that we're getting better at over the past few decades. We have improved, but it's still a lot of times there's a tension between getting things done quickly and the upfront costs, and not willing to spend a lot of money upfront on impact assessments, etc. And but the question then is, how do we sort of really understand that actually in the long term the costs are not that high. They actually it's worth paying that upfront cost in money and time for the long-term positive benefits of emphasizing environmental and social well-being and sustainability. So I think we'll have to continue that conversation around that, but I think it's an important point.